Cade Cunningham is solidifying himself to the point that is there a world where he's first team All NBA? You know, he's putting himself in that conversation. I know that we have a lot of injuries, but he's without a doubt a lock to make one of the 3 All NBA teams. And
one of the first two.
I look at you're absolutely right. I look at the top 4 young players under 24 that I want to build my franchise around. Cade Cunningham is number 3. You know, I think he's just behind Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama. I know there's some debate about Cade over Ant that I wouldn't get into. I could definitely see the appeal of Cade's game. And then number 4 would be Evan Mobley. But I think what Cade's doing right now is absolutely fantastic. You know, carrying this roster, finally has some good serviceable players around him. And I'm not going to act like this roster is completely bad because I think Tobias Harris has been really good in his role. So has Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., and they play defense. That's the one thing about this team. You know, they're an average offensive and defensive rating. They are competitive on the defensive side of the ball. I just think this is a major growth point for Cade. And, you know, he was looked at as an afterthought because the situation was so bad. Even I overlooked him initially with the struggles, but now we see everything opened up for him, and he looks like one of the very best young players in the league. Like, you look at the duels that he's had with Trae Young. He's came out on top looking like the better player.
Him and Ant.
Yeah, him and Ant, they've had some duels, and Pistons have gotten the better of them. Nah, but the Timberwolves got playoff success, West Conference Finals, Anthony Edwards. Don't forget that. But no, Cade Cunningham is a special player, a special talent. And I think before the draft, this was the appeal with him, is that he can be an MVP level player. And right now is, I think, just the first step to him getting to that point. But, you know, I remember there was a point in time where, you know, OKC declined to trade, sending SGA for the first overall pick and a player. And the first overall pick was going to be for Cade. And everybody thought OKC was crazy at that point. And SGA, of course, has become what he's become. But that's how heralded Cade Cunningham was. And now he's realizing his potential.
All right. Have you seen his nickname?
I'm glad you're back, man. I'm glad you're back.
I love watching him play.
You guys, have you seen Cade's nickname?
The Paradox?
The Paradox.
Or
I don't like that.
No?
He doesn't like shit he doesn't understand.
It's Cade motherfucking Cunningham. That's his nickname right there.
His nickname's Cade.
Cade motherfucking Cunningham.
His first name.
His name
is
is
nickname.
what the fuck?
It's his first name. If
nicknames are dying.
Government?
They're dead.
I don't know his government. I don't know if Cade's his actual government.
Let's see.
That'll be dope if it is. It's a cool ass name.
Nicknames have always been like that. LeBron's is Bron.
No, LeBron's is King James.
Yeah, but one of his nicknames is Bron.
And of course, I mean, that's shortening his name, but his nickname is King
Cade.
James.
That's fire.
What, did you look at the nickname?
No, I'm
his
saying,
name?
if his government was something different.
Cade Cunningham Brown.
I don't know. I feel like the nickname has to come naturally.
Motorcade and Deuce.
That's a great nickname.
On his basketball reference.
Motorcade?
Deuce.
Is that because Deuce McBride owns him in college basketball?
No, I think his I don't know, honestly.
Motorcade is a great
Motorcade I
nickname.
can warm up to.
I like that.
But I don't know if that's going to stick.
No.
The
I mean, it makes
Paradox.
sense.
Paradox is amazing.
Motorcade, I mean, he's playing for Detroit. Motor City. Motorcade.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
No, but the Paradox is some... You guys wanted nicknames like, yo, let's go back to the real deal, the big ticket, the answer, the problem, the truth.
The answer is the greatest name.
Oh, it's amazing. This is getting into that type of bag.
Have you seen why he's called the Paradox?
Explain it to me, please.
Because he's a great player on the Detroit Pistons. It's a paradox. At least these days.
That is fire.
Damn, that's fucked up for Detroit. I'm glad you're back though, man.
But
had an up and down career with
here's
him.
I will say this, Joel, and I only say this because questions are questions. It didn't sound like you answered the question, is he a superstar?
I think he's a superstar. I think, and he's one of the 4 young players you want to build around. If he's obviously not on the level.
You're making me cry. Bro.
He's obviously not on the level of those top end guys right now, but that's because those guys have had more years in the league. But you look at Cade and the way that he's trending, with the way he's leading the Pistons roster to one of the top 6 seeds in the East, you get him better players, better teammates around him, a better supporting cast. There's just no reason why I can't see the Pistons being one of the top teams in the East if they build around him correctly. I think Cade gives you a higher ceiling than Paolo being your best player or Franz being your best player. And we used to talk about Orlando like we used to talk about Orlando as being next up in the East. But I think the Pistons right now, they're kind of taking that spot because they have the most they just have the best young star. I think Cade is just that good, the way he can score. And this is the difference between him and Paolo, because Paolo's shot diet is 50% mid-ranges, and they aren't short mid-ranges. They're long mid-range shots that are inefficient shots. Cade Cunningham, a lot of his shot diet is from the mid-range, but it's the short mid-range. He's taking down smaller players in that post area, and he's getting more highly efficient shots. You know, I think the finishing still has to improve, but the mid-range shot is excellent. The three-point shot is excellent. And the way he can dictate defenses, you know, the month of February, he's averaging 11 assists with only 3 turnovers. You know, the way that he can uplift an offense, there was a ton of comps for him coming out the draft. One of the main ones that people often refer to him as is Luka. And he can kind of control the game, not in the same way, but he has those qualities where he can uplift an offense in that way. So, you know, Cade just needed shooters around him, and now we've seen what he can be, and he's going to get even better from this point.
Do I think he's a superstar? I think he can be. Do I think he's one currently? No.
Why?
Superstar is a strong word. That's all I would say.
Why?
I only say it's strong because don't you reserve that for like the top?
You don't.
Who have I called a superstar?
You called SGA a superstar last year before he made the playoffs.
He was first team All NBA. He deserved.
Cade could possibly be first team All NBA.
He's not going to be first team All NBA
There's
this
a
year.
small chance.
Who's the 5?
Okay, Tatum, SGA, Jokic, Giannis, LeBron.
That's a conversation.
LeBron has been one of the. You can argue he's been a top 5 player in the world this year.
You can argue Cade has been.
No, you can't.
5?
You can argue Cade has been.
I respect you getting nasty though.
He
for
would
this
be.
boy.
He'd
not
be
being
the first.
consistent,
He'd be
like-
the first player on the second team at a
Second
minimum.
team All NBA. Let's say, okay, first team, maybe I'll get a little crazy. Second team, lock. Pistons, top 6 seed. Why is he not a superstar?
I said he can be.
SGA was elite last year. First seed.
They were the
But he-
first
he-
seed.
but he-
first team.
They were
made
the first
play-in.
seed, right?
No, I'm saying they.
2 years ago?
The year, they made the play-in. You call him a superstar.
He was first team All NBA.
First
I said
team,
he can be.
Second team, first team, play-in. Second team, playoff lock.
Riv, I literally said he can
just-
be.
Outside of Steph Curry,
I don't get why he's not
Steph Curry, Luka, SGA, what point guard are you taking over Cade
Jalen Brunson.
for the next 5 years to build around?
Kid's still. I mean, Jalen Brunson's 28, 29.
now. There's none.
I don't hate it.
I think Brunson's better right now. I don't know
Maybe
if in,
Dylan-
the-
maybe Dylan
in the
Harper
next
coming
5 years, I don't know if I'll take Brunson over Cade.
You give me 5. You give me that long 5 years. Cade is what, 23? So that would be at 26, 27. Nobody. There's no guard. Not LaMelo, not Ja, not Brunson, not even Steph in the next 5 years. There's no guard I'm taking.
He's played himself into that category to where, you know, this is just the beginning of his breakout to where he's at a competent team. But no, he's been that special this year. Like, I think the scoring flashes from him have been that special, and he plays defense. To do what he's doing at that size is remarkable. Like, he is legitimately an MVP level talent. Like, I can see that being his ceiling. Like, he's just that good. Like,
He is.
like last night against the Atlanta Hawks,
He's amazing.
Dyson Daniels is one of the best defenders in the world.
Oh my
Chop
God.
him up.
Cade Cunningham
Giving
gave him the business. It was like he embarrassed Dyson Daniels so bad that, you know, it's not a knock to Dyson
who
Daniels.
else did
It's
that to,
just
right?
what Cade does.
Jaden
McDaniels.
diced him.
Another reason why it's so impressive that he's doing it is because they really don't have another guy that can handle the ball. The fact that they just got it in Dennis Schroeder, and yesterday or whenever the last time they played, it was
against
Dennis's
Atlanta.
first time playing over 20 minutes in the 5 games. So the fact that it took him at this point to get another
Great
ball
point.
handler, of course, Jaden Ivey did get injured, so that's a huge part of it. Another guy that can handle the ball, but once he got injured, it's really been just him. So the fact that he's third in turnovers, I don't care about it, because when you're going to have as high usage as Cade Cunningham's going to have, but as efficient as he's been scoring the basketball, as, let me not say efficient as a playmaker, but still having the attributes, the skill, the talent that he does have as a playmaker in that own right, yeah, the finishing could be a little bit better, but his three-point shot and his mid-range game has been really strong this season, one of the league leaders in points, and you're uplifting what has been the laughingstock of the NBA for almost, I don't want to say a decade because they did make the playoffs with Blake Griffin, but for a good portion of our lives.
Shit, last year gives me like 5 years of them being a laughingstock, honestly.
Nah, you're spitting. But that's kind of where I can understand you calling me out for not calling him a superstar, because you're uplifting one of the worst franchises of recent memory, and he's doing this while being one of the best scorers, one of the best playmakers. I understand where you're coming from, but again, it can happen by the end of this season, before the playoffs even end, because he's shown he can uplift with minimal. You just give him a little bit of spacing. Tim Hardaway, Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris. That's all he really needed to start to form out and show who he can really.
I
He
think
might be
just
a top 15 player right now.
he might be, and I
might.
think just based off narrative, he wants to be on the first team, I'd be cool with it. Because, like, again, last year was so ugly and so nasty that I'm dead ass. It really feels like the Pistons have been bad my entire life, when that's not the fact. But last year was so damn bad, so dreadful, from the head coach to the players to the injuries, that it felt like this team, even with Cade, who we knew was so talented, felt like they had no chance of being good this year. Like, maybe they can, make the play-in as a 9-10 seed, just because the East is so fucking bad. But the top 6 seed, like, I understand last year the Thunder took a massive leap, right? The Thunder went to the number 1 seed, and they surprised everybody by doing that. The Pistons are the number 1 seed, but it's just as surprising, in my opinion, that the Pistons are here at this 6th spot. If Cade can become a better finisher at the rim, because right now he's, I have the numbers up, he's around 30th percentile in terms of finishing at the rim. As you mentioned, Joel, he's great mid-range, 80th percentile. But yeah, at the rim, he's shooting 57%. Last few years, it's been around the same. So that's really, I think, the last key to him. Obviously, cutting down the turnovers, but naturally they're going to get number 2. Some of the on-ball responsibility will be taken off his plate, just because to have that high of a usage rate, it's hard to maintain unless you're, the Luka Doncic's and whatnot of the world. But if he can maintain what he's doing now, but become a more efficient finisher at the rim, we're talking about a guy that could, teeter as a top 5 player in the league. If we're seeing what he's doing now, uplifting this team as his second best player, being wherever the fuck you want to pick Malik Beasley on any given night, you're a top 6 seed. You're going to be making the playoffs. And I think the Knicks are going to beat them, right? Assuming the Knicks have the third seed. Cade's getting at least a game. He could get 2, and they could push it to 6 games. And if he has a good playoff series, we're going to be talking about him, even though he's getting this talk, like we were talking about Paolo last year, when he took the Cavs down to the wire, and he was putting up efficient night after efficient night and being the main scoring option when a lot of other guys weren't showing up.
Reminds me of like Ja versus Utah.
Yeah.
That type of vibe.
Wake up party.
That series,
because Ja turned himself into a superstar in that series, if you ask me.
But he didn't have better numbers than Cade.
In that playoff series is what I'm saying. He averaged, 30 something?
Mm-hmm. He was only at 19 a game.
Yeah, he was
year.
nuts. And he also beat Steph, which obviously wouldn't say he beat him, but
no, they played great.
Yeah, he did.
It's just, honestly, this is just vindication for Cade. I mean, like, you had last year people like, and I get it, like, watching the Pistons was hard. Like, they weren't good, bro.
No, it was
like,
really hard.
It was really painful. So I don't even blame people for not watching them. I only watched them for Cade. So when he didn't play, best believe I wasn't on that TV watching him. But it was hard because you had people like, just in general, when you don't play on a good team and, you're the only guy with the ball, your weaknesses tend to show a lot more. And of course, the nonstop turnovers and the finishing numbers and, their fake stats because they're not winning. Of course that is. But Cade has improved every year since he's got here. And I think last summer was the summer he got his foot fixed. Like when he really, because he had an injury that's been bothering him for like 3 or 4 years. And he finally got his foot fixed. Coming into this year, even with Detroit, still had some up and downs. But then they went on a tear. And shout out to JB Bickerstaff because he really has these guys playing defense. And they have an upgrade from last year in terms of just serviceable players. Like, all these players are quality role players in the NBA. But to go from bottom of the barrel to, like, top 5, 6 seed in the East, where the East isn't, this world beater, but their 5, 6 teams are pretty good, is truly amazing. It definitely fits an agenda or a narrative in the sense of he's doing a lot more with less. And you mentioned it. You brought up Orlando, who was supposed to be that next up-and-coming team coming up. And now it looks like if Detroit gets to number 2, they could be stealing the spotlight from them. Because, in my opinion, Cade is better than Moncaro. Like, he's been one of the best young players. And what Cade's doing this year, just as being the primary initiator on offense and being the primary scorer and being able to, even though if his scoring isn't going there, just being a playmaker, just at reading defenses and being an elite pick-and-roll player. It's been great to see. Durbin's been playing better as of late, so that's another thing I'm just happy for. Same thing with Pods. I'm not just going to take it day by day. Asar has been great in his minutes. Dels has been locked in now. He didn't lock in before, but now he's locked in. He's been focused. He's a big fan of Asar. Shout out to Dels. Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway
He just gives
Jr.
you the pass on anyone.
That's more of a troll.
Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr. doing the job, hitting 3 balls. Isaiah Stewart has been great defensively. I don't think nobody talked about that enough. Just at the rim, being a good switchable big. Isaiah Stewart is definitely dope for them. And getting Dennis Schroeder is dope. I think that style fits more of his, and he had to ramp up, and he was really huge for them in that Atlanta game. This team may not beat the Knicks. It's fine. It's fine. But damn, give him a run. Make it 6 games.
Cade should have a good series.
I agree. Like, Cade should have a good series. I feel like Detroit could have a good series. Like, they could lose that series, but I think defensively, they'll be good in that series. I think offensively they'll be able to take advantages of some things like Brunson's height, Cat's slow and pick and roll, and that's what Cade loves to do. So being able to pick apart their defense, I think Cade will be able to do that. Make it fun. Make it interesting. That's all I ask for.
Can I say, if I think for basketball, there's no better entrance for Cade Cunningham than the Knicks.
I want Indiana.
In MS, but I say this for the
glamour,
NBA to have that type of boost for another star in the uprising. They had it with Anthony Edwards, where he kind of just naturally had that charisma, that moxie, and on top of it, he was dominant. But he did it against Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. So on that stage, he did it against Nikola Jokic. But for Cade, it's a little bit different because you're doing it in MSG, the New York media, the media capital of the world, to go into the Garden, to go ahead, like we all anticipate. He's going to go out there and he's going to hoop. For the NBA, that's a blessing.
I say Indiana because if you watch their games when they play each other, it's been a lot of physical confrontation.
Fact.
They've been arguing a shit ton, and that could be a potential brewing rivalry because we need those in the league where you can shake those up. Two really young teams. Indiana a little bit header in the department, but you got a young point guard in Hallie, a young point guard in Cade. Obviously, Cade fucking comfortably clears, but you got two young point guards ready to duke it out. You got Benedict Mathurin, you got Asar Thompson. Like, it's a lot of things brewing in that matchup where we can get a rivalry out of there if we promote it.
Who would you want his number 2 to be? Like, what kind of play, type? Long term.
So last summer, I wanted them to go get Zach. I thought they wouldn't have to sell a lot to get him. I thought he would have been a great complimentary piece. For Cade,
do you want to see him with like a defensive minded big? Do you want to see him with another like offensive minded wing?
I think Cade would, for me, be more like, I don't want to say Braun because Braun is more like a Brandon Ingram archetype, like another playmaking wing that can score the ball at a high level but defend too. So like,
what about Jaren
Jackson? He doesn't rebound well enough for like their archetype, like their defense. I think for Jaren, like you need a good rebounder. I think like Brandon Ingram and Jaylen Brown, if that's possible.
I hear what you're saying.
Like in like a little bit of Jaylen Brown's traits and a little bit of Brandon Ingram's traits.
Be a good player.
I agree. Be fucking a dude.
I think the center position is interesting because Isaiah Stewart's playing really well. Darren, you're hoping that the defense just improves, just so he's a good two-way player. I think those are perfect complements. He just needs more shooting. I think the defense around him has been fine, though. I think pretty much it's like we're talking about him maybe getting somebody else, but they've drafted a lot of dudes who they're expecting to be that, like Ivy, Asar, Stewart, Jalen Duren, Ron Holland. Like
Holland's been good.
We're all expecting them to take in that role and just consistently improve. So that's basically his like core.